Hello, I am Raider Pilot Steve, and this is my review of the Royal International Air Tattoo 2025, which is held at RAF Fairford and is billed as the world's largest military air show. The show is split over 3 days with a smaller, more laid-back display on the Friday, followed by the full show over the weekend. Every RIAT has a theme, and the main one for the 2025 show was Eyes in the Skies, which sought to highlight specialist aircraft that are used for intelligence, surveillance, maritime patrol, search and rescue, surveying, and reconnaissance. There was also 2 other micro themes, which included celebrating 40 years since the show moved to RAF Fairford and the 50th anniversary of the first flight of the Boeing AH-64 Apache. In this review, I will cover the static display aircraft, starting with the themed displays and then the others. Then I will cover the flying display in its entirety and including any differences over the 3 days. The weather varied over the 3 show days. Friday was sunny with cloudy blue skies. Saturday suffered an intense downpour in the morning and the remainder of the day was grey and murky. Sunday had some lovely sunny conditions but did suffer a few minor rain showers throughout the day. Fortunately, the weather had very little effect on the flying programme. The main theme of the show was Eyes in the Skies, and the Royal Air Force provided a Boeing P-8A Poseidon MRA-1, which now fills the maritime patrol role that was left when the UK retired the Hawker Siddeley Nimrod MR2s in 2010. This Poseidon is named Sittevelgen and is part of number 120 Squadron based at RAF Lossiemouth. The Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm sent over one of their Leonardo Merlin HM2 helicopters, which are used for anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare. This helicopter is based at RNAS Culdrose and is part of 814 Naval Air Squadron, which are nicknamed the Flying Tigers. The Royal Canadian Air Force's Lockheed CP-140M Aurora made a welcome return to Fairford and is used for the maritime patrol role and is based on the Lockheed P-3 Orion. This aircraft is part of 405 Long Range Patrol Squadron and is based at Canadian Forces Base Greenwood. The Czech Air Force flew over a very rare Let L410FG turbolet, a variant of the famous transport aircraft that the Czech Republic uses for surveillance. This is one of only 2 examples in Czech service and a part of the 242nd Transport and Special Squadron based at Prague-Kabely Airport. The French Air and Space Force also provided a very rare aircraft in the form of the Boeing E-3F Sentry, which is an airborne warning and control system aircraft. This is one of 4 aircraft in service with France and is from the 36th Airborne Detection and Control Squadron from Avor Air Base. As part of the theme, Germany provided a pair of rotary elements. First was the German Army Aviation's NH Industries NH90 TTH, which is no stranger to RIAT since its debut in 2022. This variant of the NH90 is mainly used for tactical transport but can be used for many other roles. This helicopter is part of Tactical Helicopter Regiment 10 based at Fasberg Air Base. The German Navy also participated with the seldom seen Westland Superlynx Mark 88A, which is possibly making one of its final appearances in the UK as the type approaches retirement in 2026. This helicopter is used for anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare and is part of Naval Air Wing 5 based at Nordholz Naval Air Base. The Irish Air Corps were represented in the theme by one of their Pilatus PC-12 NGs, which is used in the I-Star role, which encompasses intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance. This aircraft is operated by 104 Squadron as part of No. 1 Operations Wing, based at Casement Aerodrome. Italy provided several aircraft to fit into the theme. The Italian Air Force sent a Leonardo P-72A, a turboprop transport that has been fitted to perform the maritime patrol and anti-submarine warfare role. This aircraft is part of the 88th Anti-Submarine Squadron under the 41st Anti-Submarine Wing based at Naval Air Station Sigonella. The Italian Army also participated with one of their Leonardo UH-169B training helicopters and represent the soon-to-be in-service types that will perform search and rescue and surveillance missions. This helicopter is part of 30th Squadron Pegaso under 2nd Army Aviation Regiment Sirio, based at Lamezia Terme International Airport. The Italian Coast Guard Air Service made a rare UK appearance with one of their ATR 42-400 MP surveyors, which are tasked with the maritime patrol role. The Lithuanian Air Force have been keen supporters of RIAT and brought over one of their Airbus helicopters Dolphin, which is primarily used for the search and rescue role. This helicopter is part of the helicopter squadron based at Shiauli Air Base. The Royal Netherlands Navy's NH Industries NH90 NFH returned to RIAT again and is primarily operated from naval vessels and can perform duties in anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare and search and rescue. This helicopter is part of 860 Squadron based at Naval Air Squadron Decoy. Making its RIAT debut was the Spanish Air and Space Force's Sikorsky HD-24, which is primarily used as a search and rescue helicopter. It is part of the 801st SAR Squadron under 49th Wing based at San Juan Air Base. The United States Air Force's Air Combat Command provided some great aircraft for theme, including a Boeing RC-135V rivet joint, which is used in signals intelligence and reconnaissance roles. This jet is part of the 95th Reconnaissance Squadron based at RAF Mildenhall. Probably the aircraft most people think of when you say eyes in the sky, the Lockheed U-2S, provided by the United States Air Force and is used for reconnaissance and surveillance missions. This aircraft is part of the 99th Expeditionary Reconnaissance Squadron based here at RAF Fairford. There was also some Cold War era types that formed part of the themed display. First was an ex-Swiss Air Force Dornier DO-27H-2 that would have been used for liaison and observation duties. This example is owned by Bruno Stocker and wears Swiss Air Force markings. RIAT regular I. Fenicotteri returned with his Piaggio P166C, which is the last P166 flying in Italy and now wears Italian Air Force colours. This aircraft type was often used as a utility platform and for liaison duties, but some were configured for photographic surveys. Undoubtedly, the most iconic search and rescue helicopter, the Westland Sea King HAR Mark IIIA, was also on display at the show, standing out with its RAF yellow colour scheme among the other SAR helicopters. This example is a former Royal Air Force aircraft and is operated by Historic Helicopters based in Chard. Warbirds also formed part of the theme, including the iconic maritime patrol aircraft, the Canadian Vickers PBV-1A Canzo A, which is parked up next to one of its modern contemporaries, the P-8A. This example is the only airworthy example in Europe and is owned by Plain Sailing and based out of Duxford. Fighter Aviation Engineering Limited provided a pair of vintage photo reconnaissance types. First was the Lockheed 12A Electra Junior, which was used for covert reconnaissance whilst masquerading as a civilian aircraft in World War II. Next was the Supermarine Spitfire FR-14E, resplendent in genuine Royal Indian Air Force markings. This Spitfire fits into the theme as the FR stands for Fighter Reconnaissance. There was even civilian and corporate aircraft that fit into the Eyes in the Skies theme. Returning after debuting last year was the Beechcraft B-350 King Air from US defence firm Metrea. This aircraft is known as the Swift Eye and is capable of staying in the air for 10 hours at a time whilst undertaking contracted intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Metrea also brought over their latest aircraft, the de Havilland Canada GHC-8 Fire Swift, which is the latest in advanced firefighting aircraft. This aircraft had only recently made its first flight and was making its international debut. The Fireswift was awarded the Boeing Trophy for winning the best civilian aircraft for the Concorde d'Elegance. A classic shape still earning its keep was the Bell UH-1D Iroquois, operated by Commercial Helicopter Services. This Huey is an ex-German Air Force example which was used for search and rescue duties. This helicopter was retired in 2021 and was showcased to represent its search and rescue history. Channel Islands Air Search provided their only modified Britten-Norman BN-2B-20 Islander, which is used in conjunction with search and rescue helicopters when locating those in distress. This aircraft is based at Guernsey Airport and works with rescue centres in the Channel Islands, England and France. PAL Aerospace was on hand with their well-equipped de Havilland Canada DHC-8 ISR. This aircraft is capable of specialised intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance and maritime patrol tasks. It has also been utilised by governments such as the UK Home Office to help with border security and combating people smuggling. With a wingspan 3 foot larger than the U-2, the Grob G520NG Egret provided by Grob Aircraft was certainly one of the more unusual aircraft on display. This aircraft has been employed successfully by multiple scientific agencies and is being marketed as a low-cost alternative to satellite tasking or long-endurance surveillance drones. A privately owned Piper L-18C Super Cub in Italian markings was on show to represent the forward air controller role, which was used to guide in airstrikes on the battlefield. Airtask provided one of their specialised Reims Cessna F406 Vigilant aircraft for the static display. These aircraft have been used for a variety of specialised surveillance missions. The second theme was the celebration of 40 years since the Royal International Air Tattoo, then the International Air Tattoo, moved from RAF Greenham Common to RAF Fairford. There was a photo timeline to showcase key moments in the show's history, such as gaining royal status in 1996. This was represented in a static display by 2 aircraft that were present at the first IAT held at Fairford in 1985. First was the historic Army Aircraft Flight's Augusta Bell Sioux AH-1, a light observation helicopter formerly of the Army Air Corps and based at Middle Wallop. Next was the Commemorative Air Force's Douglas R4D-6S Dakota Ready for Duty, which is painted in United States Navy colours. Fairford was another stopping point for this aircraft as it embarks its Navy to Victory tour. The Dakota was awarded the Northrop Grumman Trophy for being the runner-up of the Concorde d'Elegance. The final theme of the show marked 50 years since the first flight of the original Boeing AH-64 Apache. This was represented in the static display by a total of 4 examples of the relatively new Boeing AH-64E Apache Guardians from the Army Air Corps, the Royal Netherlands Air and Space Force, the Qatar Emiri Air Force and the United States Army. The Army Air Corps' Apache Guardian AH-2 debuted at RIA in 2023, whilst the other 3 were making their UK Airshow debuts. The UK example is part of 3 Regiment based at Wattisham Flying Station. The Netherlands example is part of the 301st Squadron based at Gilles de Ryan Air Base. The Desert Camouflage Qatar example is part of 42nd Squadron under Flying Wing 4 based at Doha International Airport. And the US example is part of the 12th Combat Aviation Brigade based at Katabat Kazan. There was still plenty of static participants outside of the show's themes. The Royal Air Force provided a large contingent, including a pair of Eurofighter Typhoon FGR-4s hailing from No. 3 Squadron and No. 29 Squadron based at RAF Coningsby. The latter jet was actually the flying display jet that was swapped out due to a technical issue on Friday. The latest in frontline jets was also on show in the form of the Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning II. This aircraft is part of No. 207 Squadron based at RAF Marham. The UK's modern transport capabilities were represented by an Airbus A400M Atlas C1 from No. 70 Squadron based at RAF Brize Norton, which was open for visitors to walk through. The Royal Air Force's training aircraft made up the remainder of their static contributions. Rotary training came in the form of a pair of Airbus helicopters Juno HT-1s, operated by No. 60 Squadron under No. 1 Flying Training School, based at RAF Shawbury. The crew of No. 1 Flying Training School were awarded the RTX trophy for being the winners of the Crew Challenge Aircraft Recognition Competition. Fixed-wing trainers were also on display, including a BAE Hawk T2 Advanced Fast Jet trainer from No. 25 Squadron based at RAF Valley, an Embraer EMB 500 Phenom T1 multi-engine trainer from No. 45 Squadron based at RAF Cranwell, and a Grob G120 TP Prefect T1 elementary flying trainer from No. 57 Squadron, also based at RAF Cranwell. Further basic training was displayed by a Grob Tutor T1 from the Oxford University Air Squadron based at RAF Benson. The Royal Navy contributed another helicopter, a loaded-out Leonardo Wildcat HMA-2 from 825 Naval Air Squadron based at RNAS Yeovilton. Another Wildcat came courtesy of the Army Air Corps, who provided a Leonardo Wildcat AH-1 from 1 Regiment based at RNAS Yeovilton. I somehow forgot to take a photo of this aircraft on the ground, so I provided a photo I took on departures. There was also a Westland Gazelle AH-1 on display, which had arrived by road. The Belgian air component made a welcome return with their newly acquired Airbus A400M Atlas transport, which was making its first appearance at a UK airshow. This aircraft is part of 20th Squadron under the 15th Air Transport Wing based at Melsbrook Air Base. Belgium also sent over one of their General Dynamics F-16BM Fighting Falcons from the Operational Conversion Unit based at Kleinbrogel Air Base. This aircraft had a specially painted tail, the Semper Vulture, which represents the mentorship of training new F-16 pilots before going on to its replacement, the F-35. The Royal Canadian Air Force also provided one of their Lockheed Martin CC-130J Hercules transport aircraft, which is part of the Air Task Force based at Prestwick Airport up in Scotland. The Czech Air Force also sent over some of their more aggressive aircraft, starting with the Aero L159A Alka multi-role combat aircraft, which is part of the 212th Tactical Squadron based at the 21st Tactical Air Force Base in Kaslav. There was also a Saab JAS-39C Gripen jet fighter, which is part of the 211th Tactical Squadron, also based at the 21st Tactical Air Force Base in Kaslav. This jet was due to perform in the flying display, but was cancelled due to pilot injury shortly before the show. It is specially painted to mark 20 years since the first Gripen touched down at Kaslav. RIAT 2025 also saw Egypt becoming the 59th nation to send an aircraft to the show. The Egyptian Air Force sent over a rare Antonov AN-74T Kohler transport aircraft, which wore a desert camouflage scheme. This jet transport is adept at operating on unprepared airstrips that are unsuitable for most jets. This aircraft is part of the 533rd Air Wing based out of Cairo International Airport. The Finnish Army are infrequent visitors to the show, and this year provided an MD Helicopters MD-500E helicopter, which is used for a variety of roles including training, search and rescue, and even tactical missions. This aircraft is part of the 2nd Helicopter Company under the Unterjäger Regiment. The German Air Force had additional aircraft to show in the static park. There was an Airbus Helicopters H145M LUH-SOF utility helicopter, which is part of the flying group under Helicopter Wing 64 based at Lappheim Air Base. Making its RIAT debut was a German-operated Lockheed Martin C-130J Hercules transport in a very dark grey colour scheme. This aircraft is part of the binational Air Transport Squadron based at Evru-Forvel Air Base, which provides a tactical transport fleet to European Air Transport Command, which is formed by Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands and Spain. There was also a pair of Panavia Tornado IDS strike jets from the Tactical Air Force Wing 33 and Tactical Air Force Wing 51 Immelmann, based at Northernwich Air Base and Squelsvik Air Base respectively. One of the more eagerly anticipated static displays came from the Hellenic Air Force, who sent over a pair of Dassault Mirage 2000-5s, which are used as interceptors and anti-ship aircraft. One of the jets was a two-seater BG variant, with the other being a single-seat EG variant. The aircraft are part of 331 All-Weather Squadron Theseus under the 114th Combat Wing based at Tanagra Air Base. The Hungarian Air Force provided one of their latest acquisitions, an Airbus Helicopters H225M transport helicopter, which was making its first appearance at Riyadh and also marks the first time since 2009 that a H225M has appeared at the show. This helicopter is part of the 86th Helicopter Brigade based at Zhoonok Air Base. The Irish Air Corps also brought over a pair of their helicopters, including a Eurocopter EC-135P2 from 302 Training and Surveillance Squadron and a Leonardo AW-139 from 301 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. Both helicopters operate under No. 3 Operations Wing and based at Casement Aerodrome. Jordan have been huge supporters of the show over the years, and Riyadh would not be the same without them. The Royal Jordanian Air Force sent over one of their Lockheed C-130H Hercules from Free Squadron based at Amman City Airport. The Netherlands Air and Space Force contributed several other airframes as well. The biggest one was their Airbus A330 MRTT tanker, which is part of the multi-role tanker transport unit based at Eindhoven Airport. They also sent a pair of Boeing CH-47F Chinook helicopters, which hailed from 298 Squadron under Defence Helicopter Command based at Gilsrijen Air Base. Making possibly their final appearance at Riyadh was a pair of Pilatus PC-7 turbo trainers. The pair are part of 131 Squadron based at Woensdrecht Air Base. Both aircraft wore tail markings celebrating the 35 years that PC-7s have been in Dutch service as of 2023. Another possible farewell was the Royal New Zealand Air Force's Boeing 757-2K2 transport aircraft, which are soon going to be replaced by the Airbus A321 XLR in 2027. This aircraft is operated by No. 40 Squadron and based at RNZAF Base Auckland. The crew of No. 40 Squadron were awarded the Moog Trophy for being the overall winners of the Crew Challenge. The Pakistan Air Force provided an incredible contribution to the show, starting with the support aircraft that wasn't meant to stay over the weekend. This was the Aleutian IL-78MP Midas tanker that was part of No. 10 Squadron, known as the Bulls, and based at PAF Base Nur Khan. I believe this is the first time a Pakistani IL-78 has touched down in the UK. Pakistan also sent over a Lockheed C-130H Hercules from No. 3 Squadron, known as the Antelopes, and also based at PAF Base Nur Khan. This aircraft was painted in one of the most spectacular schemes I have seen at an airshow, featuring the Falcon motif and tail arc that represented some of the current equipment used by the Pakistan Air Force. The Hercules was awarded the Ruag Trophy for being the overall winner of the Concours d'Elegance. The stars of this delegation were the pair of PAC JF-17C Thunders from No. 8 Squadron, known as the Haders, based at PAF Base Masraw. One of the aircraft was in standard grey but displayed alongside the weapons and gear it can be equipped with, whilst the other was painted in a colourful scheme denoting the flag of Pakistan. The JF-17 has appeared at UK shows in the past, but it's the first time they have appeared at Riyadh. The Pakistan Air Force was awarded the Spirit of the Meat trophy for providing 4 of their aircraft despite a 4,000-mile journey and presenting them in a colourful and engaging way. The Polish Air Force also participated with one of their Lockheed C-130E Hercules transport aircraft, which is part of the 3rd Transport Air Wing and based at the 30th Air Transport Base in Powys. The C-130 was the support aircraft of the Lockheed Martin F-16C Fighting Falcon. As an added bonus, the Polish Air Force sent an additional F-16 for static display, which came from 6th Tactical Squadron under the 2nd Tactical Air Wing, based at the 31st Tactical Air Base in Poznan. This jet was painted in a Raven scheme, which commemorated the 100th anniversary of the Polish Air Force in 2019. The Qatar Emiri Air Force has in the last few years been regular contributors to the show, and 2025 was no different. As well as the AH-64E, they bought a BAE Hawk Mark 167 from No. 11 Squadron, which is based at RAF Leeming. There was also the distinctly painted Boeing C-17A Globemaster III, somewhat masquerading as a Qatar Airways aircraft. The transport jet is part of 10th Transport Squadron under Flying Wing 8 and based at Al Udeid Air Base. One of their frontline jets was also present in the form of a Eurofighter Typhoon T-3 from No. 12 Squadron, which is a joint RAF Qatari training unit based at RAF Coningsby. The Slovak Air Force returned to the show with a Leonardo C-27J Spartan transport aircraft, which is part of 1st Transport Squadron under the 46th Wing and based at Malacky Air Base. The Slovenian Air Force and Air Defence also returned with one of their 2 Leonardo C-27J Spartans. This particular example is named Martin Kapan. This was joined by Slovenia's only combat aircraft type, the Pilatus PC-9M Hudurnik. Both of these aircraft are part of the 152nd Flight Squadron under 15th Wing and based at Sirkiob Air Base. The Spanish Air and Space Force returned with one of their Eurofighter C-16 Typhon multi-role fighter jets for the first time since 2016. This jet is part of 142nd Squadron under 14th Wing and based at Albacete Air Base. The tail and canards of the jet were painted in tiger stripes, representing the fact that 142nd Squadron is part of the NATO Tigers. The Swedish Air Force made quite a splash with their UK airshow debut of one of their Sikorsky HKP-16 Black Hawk utility helicopters. This helicopter is part of the 2nd Helicopter Squadron based at Malmen Air Base. The crew of the Black Hawk were awarded the Engagement Trophy for presenting the most engaging, interactive and visually attractive static aircraft display. The United States Air Force usually have a heavy presence at the show, and this year was quality over quantity. Air Force Global Strike Command provided a Rockwell B-1B Lancer from the 37th Bomb Squadron under 28th Bomb Wing based at Ellsworth Air Force Base. The jet also displayed tail art that marked 80 years since the Doolittle raid as of 2022. We were due to see a B-1B in the flying display, but a series of technical difficulties prevented this from happening. The closest thing to a flypast was a slow taxi as it was pulled back to the hangars on departures day. Fingers crossed for 2026. For me, the Air Force Reserve Command made a bigger impact. Literally, they bought the biggest aircraft of the show in the form of a Lockheed C-5M Super Galaxy from the 337th Airlift Squadron under the 439th Airlift Wing based at Westover Air Reserve Base. This humongous jet was open for visitors to walk through, well worth it, and marks the first time since 2012 that a C-5 has appeared at a UK airshow. Air Force Special Operations Command returned to Riyadh again with a Lockheed Martin MC-130J Commando II, a variant of the Hercules that is used for special operations. This aircraft is part of the 67th Special Operations Squadron, known as the Night Owls, under 752nd Special Operations Group based at RAF Mildenhall. The crew of 67th Special Operations Squadron were awarded the Lockheed Martin Trophy for being the runners-up of the Crew Challenge. Air Mobility Command sent over a Boeing KC-46A Pegasus tanker from the 108th based at McGuire Air Force Base. This is the third time this aircraft type has appeared at RIAT since its debut in 2022. The United States Air Forces in Europe provided the most aircraft with 5 airframes on display. First was a Boeing KC-135R Stratotanker from the 351st Air Refuelling Squadron under the 100th Air Refuelling Wing, based at RAF Mildenhall. Executive transportation was represented by a Learjet C-21A from the 76th Airlift Squadron under the 86th Airlift Wing, based at Ramstein Air Base. There was also a trio of frontline fighters, including a pair of Lockheed Martin F-35A Lightning IIs from the 495th Fighter Squadron, known as the Valkyries, and a McDonnell Douglas F-15E Strike Eagle from the 492nd Fighter Squadron, known as the Mad Hatters. Both of these squadrons come under the 48th Fighter Wing, based at RAF Lakenheath. Classic jets are making a slow return to the airshow scene, and RIAT had 5 on static display. First was an Aermacchi MB326E, painted in high visibility orange, that was restored to flight by the Vola Venice Flying Museum in 2019. It is one of only 2 MB326s flying in Italy. There was also a pair of BAC Jet Provost on display, with a T3A painted to represent an aircraft from No. 3 Flying Training School, and a T5 painted to represent No. 6 Flying Training School. The jets are owned and operated by the Classic Jet Preservation Group and Viper Classic Aircraft, respectively. Another classic shape was the Fugger CM170 Magister with its distinctive V tail. This example came courtesy of the Association for the Preservation of French Aeronautical Heritage. The final classic jet on display was a British icon, the Hawker Hunter T-72 from Hawker Hunter Aviation, which is still earning its keep by acting as a threat simulator or a trial support aircraft. A rare rotary type also made an appearance. This was the Bell 47H1, owned by Robert Zammit. The 2025 season marked the 80th anniversary of the first flight of the Bell 47, and this example was parked up next to the Sioux AH1, another Bell 47 variant. There was also a decent selection of Cold War era fixed-wing types, including a de Havilland Canada Chipmunk Mark 22 in a silver Royal Air Force scheme. A rather strikingly painted example of a Fairchild 24R-40 was also on display, this one owned by Scott Thompson. There was an IAR 823 that served with the Romanian Air Force from 1975 until 1990. The aircraft is now owned by Van Rossum Johan. At the far end of the showground was a total of 4 Scottish Aviation Bulldogs on display, including a Mark 122 that once served the Ghana Air Force and a trio of T1s, which all served the Royal Air Force previously. The Soko J-20 Kraju, despite looking like a trainer, was actually used for light attack, close air support and reconnaissance. This example once served under the Yugoslav Air Force. The only other warbird on display was a beautiful Beechcraft Model H-18, which unusually has a tricycle undercarriage. RIAT often showcases some of the leading aircraft manufacturers and their aircraft. De Havilland Canada were on hand with their De Havilland Canada DHC-6 Twin Otter, which is an incredibly versatile and adaptable aircraft. Along with the G520, Grob Aircraft also brought along a Grob 120 TP. This aircraft can be used for both elementary flying training as well as basic jet training. Gulfstream Aerospace sent over one of their new Gulfstream G600s, which is designed to fly faster and further than its predecessor, the G550. QinetiQ have often participated in the static display, and 2025 saw them bring 2 of their test aircraft, the Beechcraft B350 King Air and their Leonardo AW139 helicopter. Pilatus Aircraft Limited were also present with 2 of their aircraft, the very sharp-looking Pilatus PC-21 Advanced Trainer and the Pilatus PC-24 Executive Jet. One of the surprises that wasn't previously announced was the very futuristic-looking Vertical Airspace VX4, from Vertical Aerospace Limited. This is a piloted zero-emissions aircraft that can take off and land vertically. This aircraft was making its first trip outside of its home base at Kemble. There was also a small selection of civilian aircraft as well, including an American General AG-5B Tiger, a Bell 206B Jet Ranger 3 helicopter, a Comco Icarus C-42C from the RAF Microlight Flying Association, an FLS Sprint 160, a Grob G109B Able, which has been upgraded for use by differently abled pilots, a Reims F152 from the Halton Aero Club. Now on to the flying display, which was opened on Friday in noisy fashion by the Saab JAS 39E Gripen, the latest model of the Gripen line. The jet was provided by Saab AB and performed a tight but somewhat short demonstration of its capabilities. Friday was also the only time that the new Army Air Corps demonstration team would be performing, and the only representation in the flying program of the Apache anniversary. This saw a pair of Boeing AH-64E Apache Guardian AH-2s and a Leonardo AW-159 Wildcat AH-1 from 7 Regiment put on an exciting demonstration of a possible battlefield scenario, highlighting combat prowess and precision flying. This display was one of the best military role demonstrations I've seen in recent years, especially with the addition of pyrotechnics. Also on Friday was a flypast by the Royal Air Force's Boeing RC-135W Rivet Joint R1, where it gave 2 flat passes. This aircraft hails from No. 51 Squadron and is based at RAF Waddington. Next was the Finnish Air Force's McDonnell Douglas F-18C Hornet from Fighter Squadron 11 of the Lapland Air Wing. Unusually, this was one of 2 displays by this jet on each day, with 2 different pilots. This first display was flown by Captain Paulos Hasselkana, who put on a very entertaining display, including a dirty roll upon takeoff. The Royal Air Force took centre stage again with the Eurofighter Typhoon FGR-4 from No. 29 Squadron in the hands of Squadron Leader Nathan Scheuer. The Typhoon's display in recent years has massively improved, and this season's edition of a crowd rear arrival was one of the more exhilarating manoeuvres. Friday's display had to be cut short due to a technical problem. The pilot, Squadron Leader Nathan Scheuer, was awarded the Paul Bowen Trophy for presenting the best solo jet demonstration. Now was the first of quite a contingent of helicopters at Riyadh, starting with the German Army's NH Industries NH-90 TTH from the Tactical Helicopter Regiment 10. The transport helicopter put on a varied and tight demonstration of its surprising manoeuvrability. The Italian Air Force have recently been heavy contributors to Riyadh's flying programme, and this year was no different. First of these contributions was the Leonardo C-27J Spartan from the Reparte Sperimentale di Volo, which gave a dynamic and entertaining display, complete with barrel rolls and loops. More helicopter action next with the Swedish Air Force's Sikorsky HKP-16 Black Hawk from the 2nd Helicopter Regiment. This display featured some extraordinary manoeuvres, including turning on a dime in quick succession, which I've not seen done very often. This wasn't only the Swedish Black Hawk's first UK airshow display, but also the first Black Hawk display that Riyadh has ever had in its history. Fast jets became the main theme next, with the Polish Air Force and the Tiger demo team's Lockheed Martin F-16C Fighting Falcon in the hands of Major Maciej Slab Krakauer. This was my personal favourite jet display, as it combined both military demonstration with aerobatic flourish, and featured a rather good dedication pass. The pilot, Major Maciej Slab Krakauer, was awarded the As the Crow Flies trophy, as judged by the Friends of the Royal International Air Tattoo, for the best overall flying demonstration. I also include a photo of the 3 Polish Air Force F-16Cs in formation departing Riyadh, as a tribute to Major Maciej Slab Krakauer, who was tragically killed during a rehearsal for the Radom Air Show. Blue skies. We then turned back time to the World War II era of photo reconnaissance. This was represented by a pair of photo reconnaissance Supermarine Spitfires, including a PR-11 from the Aircraft Restoration Company and a PR-19 from the Rolls-Royce Heritage Flight. The duo performed some formation flypasts before going through their own small solo displays. Since its last appearance in 2016, it was great to get the Eurofighter C-16 Typhoon of the Spanish Air and Space Force back at Riyadh. This jet is from 142nd Squadron and it put on an incredible demonstration, really tearing up the skies. This was certainly the best of the 3 Typhoon displays that we got to see, in my opinion. The next demonstration was a bit of a surprise. We were expecting the Czech Air Force to demonstrate the PZL Swidnik W3A Sokol helicopter. They brought over 2, one in standard military camouflage and the other in red, white search and rescue colours. The 2 helicopters performed several formation passes as well as an SAR demonstration by recovering a person lost at sea. The Sokols are both part of a 243rd Helicopter Squadron. This is quite likely to be the final appearance of the Sokol at a UK airshow, as the type is soon going to be retired as they are withdrawn from national SAR duties. The pilots, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Safarik and Major Antonin Petru, were awarded the RFCTE trophy for presenting the best flying demonstration by an overseas participant. The Portuguese Air Force also performed a search and rescue demonstration with their Leonardo AW101 Merlin Mark 514 from 751 Squadron Pumas. This beautifully camouflaged helicopter marks the first time since 2014 that Riyadh has had a Merlin in the flying display and was also making its UK airshow debut. The Royal Air Force was not to be left out of the helicopter action. They provided a Boeing Chinook HC-6 from No. 7 Squadron and performed a roll demonstration including showcasing the Chinook's ability to carry underslung loads and fast roping. The Eyes in the Skies theme came to a pinnacle next with a Fairford-based Lockheed U-2S from the 99th Expeditionary Reconnaissance Squadron. We did get a U-2 demonstration in 2024, but this year saw the aircraft used in the display being in fully operational, mission-fit configuration. The display consists of a surprisingly noisy takeoff, a high flat pass, a touch and go around followed by landing with the assistance of the chase cars. Seeing a fully operational U-2 in a flying display was certainly a first for the UK airshow scene. The Italian Air Force were back in force with their national aerobatic team Il Frecci Tricolori, with a formation of 9 Air Macchi AT339As. The team flew a flat demonstration on the Saturday due to low cloud, but were able to perform their full display on the Sunday. Despite being down from the usual 10 aircraft, the team performed an exciting display full of formations and aerobatics before concluding with their trademark finale, painting the world's biggest Italian flag, with copious amounts of red, white and green smoke. More Italian action came again from the Reparti Sperimente di Volo, first with their Eurofighter Typhoon F2000A, which put on a slightly high but entertaining display, complete with smoke generators. This was followed by the next generation of training aircraft, the Leonardo T346A Master, which performed a very nimble and tight demonstration, also with smoke generators. We would get another look at the Master later on in the flying programme. The weather proved to be the biggest enemy to the Royal Air Force's Boeing P-8A Poseidon MRA-1 from No. 120 Squadron. Weather delays meant the P-8A could not form up with the Red Arrows and was reduced to 2 flypasts, including one with the weapons bay open. Fortunately, we weren't without a special formation with the Red Arrows. Thanks to Royal Air Force crews working to get it operational after it had to cancel on Friday, we were able to get the Boeing E-7A Wedgetail AEW-1 in formation with the Red Arrows for a single flypast on the Sunday. The Wedgetail then returned for a pair of flypasts, including a rather daring touch and go. The Wedgetail was provided jointly by Boeing and Defence Equipment and Support. and was making its UK airshow debut. This was then followed by an absolute masterclass of formation flying and aerobatics by the Red Arrows and their 9 BAE Hawk T-1As. The team were awarded the Steedman Display Sword for presenting the most notable contribution to the air tattoo by a British participant. The German Air Force also participated in the flying display with one of their Airbus A400Ms from Air Transport Wing 62. The A400M put on a pretty good demonstration of its capabilities, including its short field performance. Next up was the Slovenian Air Force and Air Defence's Pilatus PC-9M Hodernik, which since debuting at RIAT 2015 has continually improved and as a result performs an astonishing display of precision and aerobatics. The pilot, Captain Andrea Fiorelli, was awarded the King Hussein Memorial Sword for providing the overall most polished and precise flying demonstration. The Royal Air Force also performed some other flypasts on specific days of the show. Friday saw the only appearance of a Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning II in the flying display. The jet came from number 207 Squadron and performed 2 passes. Sunday's display saw a single flypast by a Boeing C-17A Globemaster III from number 99 Squadron at nearby RAF Brize Norton. Next was some old friends of the show, the Royal Jordanian Air Force, who brought along the Royal Jordanian Falcons with their 4-ship of extra EA-300LXs. The team performed their usual routine full of exciting aerobatic manoeuvres and formation flying. Going back to the Second World War again, we see the iconic trio of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. This featured the Avro Lancaster B-1, the Hawker Hurricane Mark II-C, and the Supermarine Spitfire Mark II-A, that performed a series of formation and solo flypasts which culminated in a break at Crowd Centre. Next was a special formation representing the past and the future of the Italian Air Force's national aerobatic team, Il Frecci Tricolori. This was the Leonardo T346A Master, leading the Fiat G91R in a series of flypasts, followed by a brief but sedate solo routine due to UK air display restrictions. The G91R was restored to flying condition by the Vola Fenice Flying Museum for the Italian Air Force Centenary celebrations in 2023 and was making its UK airshow debut. It is also the only airworthy G91 in the world. The French Navy provide a rarely seen type in the form of the Breguet BR-1150 Atlantique II from 23 Flotilla. The type was due to display in 2018 but had to return due to operational reasons. This large maritime patrol aircraft put on a very agile display with several different passes, including one with the weapons bay open to reveal a dummy AN-39 Exocet missile. This was one of my personal highlights of the show and was also well positioned on the eastern end of the runway pan, allowing a closer look at the aircraft on the ground. The last rotary display of the show came from the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm and their helicopter demonstration team, the Black Cats, from 825 Naval Air Squadron. The team fly a pair of Leonardo AW159 Wildcat HMA-2s, which performed a synchronized display which showcased the maritime helicopter's capabilities. The penultimate display was the second look at the Finnish Air Force's McDonnell Douglas F-18C Hornet in the hands of Captain Ville Tuominen. Where the first display featured more showy manoeuvres, this demonstration made up for this with pure fighter jet power and aggression, making it one of the best solo jet displays of the show. The finale of RIAT 2025 was the last UK appearance of the Royal Danish Air Force's General Dynamics F-16AM Fighting Falcon, as it faces imminent retirement. The jet was displayed fantastically with lots of aerobatic flair and upon landing received a water salute on Sunday by the firefighting vehicles on the ground, marking the end of an era and possibly the last UK display of a legacy F-16. The pilot, Captain Troels Theo Vang, was awarded the Sir Douglas Bader Trophy for presenting the best individual flying display. The jet E-006 Danneborg 2 was also awarded the Best Livery Trophy as judged by the Friends of the Royal International Air Tattoo for having the most spectacular colour scheme. Whilst I go through my conclusion, please enjoy a selection of my favourite photos I took during departures on the Monday after the show. In conclusion, the Royal International Air Tattoo 2025 was an absolute triumph. The static display was extensive and the flying display was amazing. The themes of the show were well catered for, with some real rare gems in both the flying and static park. Picking my favourites for this show is very difficult, but I'll try. Starting with the static display, my personal highlights were the Egyptian AN-74T Cola, the French E3F, the Greek Mirage 2000 pair, and the whole Pakistan Air Force contingent and the United States Air Force's Super Galaxy. I also loved seeing the 4 AH-64Es together. I didn't quite realise how old the Apache design was. My highlights of the flying display was a trinity of solo fast jet displays, including the second Finnish F-18C, the Spanish Typhon, and the Polish F-16C. I also really enjoyed the Army Air Corps demonstration team, the Swedish Black Hawk, and the French Atlantique 2. I will be back to RIAT again next season. The themes for 2026 are Fighter Meet and Royal Flight. If you wish to see more of my photos from this event and others, I have linked my Flickr pages in the description below. My next show will be the Duxford Flying Day, The Americans. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you join me in the next one. Bye.